Greetings. I'd love to share today briefly a story of how 80 cents made me realize the importance of radical self-acceptance and why it's so foundational to my work. I hope you're doing well today. And I want to share what happened. I went to return something. Actually, it wasn't really a return, it was an exchange. I bought the wrong flavor. Package was unopened, untouched, and I just wanted to swap it out with a different flavor. And the cashier, and in my brain, when I went there, it was the same price, it was the same, it was just an exchange. And I had the receipt, and I shared the receipt with the cashier. I ran and got the product that I wanted to swap out. And then she told me first she said 89 cents. Then she corrected it and said 80 cents. And I was like, really? The product was $5. And I realized, when I had purchased it, I purchased it with many other things. And I had a coupon for a certain amount off. And so the way that the receipt had done it, it had distributed that amount off amongst all the items that I purchased. And so the amount that the coupon had taken off of that particular product was 80 cents. So I had a couple parts kind of show up in that moment. One of them was like, it's the same, I'm just doing a swap of flavor. The price is the same. Why not just take off the 80 cents because I'm doing a swap? Another part was like, oh, come on. Just, she's doing her job. She's doing it right. She's doing it by the book. Just don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Just pay the 80 cents and let's go. And that's what I did. But the other part was like, but that was interesting that she didn't even offer to just swap it out, which I've had people offer all the time. I am saying this with the awareness because I have lived in countries where nothing could ever be returned. So I get that even being able to make an exchange is a luxury that I enjoy here. However, why I shared this is just, to me, it was like I felt when I was doing the interaction with her, I felt a little bit of rigidity. I didn't feel like this openness. And it could have been, she could have been having a headache. It could have been something as simple as that, right? Like, I'm not going to try to figure out why there was some rigidity there. But I realized, you know what, Deborah? You can be equally as rigid about things at any point in time. So, it's okay that you noticed that she was being a little bit rigid, but don't read too much into it. If anything, if you feel like that wasn't something that you like to experience, make sure that you are taking that lesson and not being rigid with other people. That took me down an interesting rabbit hole because I realized the areas where I was rigid, and I could feel it. I can feel in my body and I can feel in my voice when I'm not as relaxed and flowing as I would like to be. And when I thought about that, I realized, I'm a lot less rigid than I used to be. I still have a ways to go. There are still certain things that will activate parts that are like, nope, no flexibility. But overall, in my system, I am a lot more flexible than I was, let's say, 2 years ago. Much more flexible, much more able to be with people wherever they are than I was. And that continues to grow. Why does that continue to grow? Because of radical self-acceptance. I really immediately realized that it's a process. I don't make myself wrong if I'm rigid. However, my desire is to experience myself as being more flexible. That's what I look forward to experiencing. So that which is a big difference between requiring and demanding myself to be more flexible. I hope you can feel and notice that difference. Yes? So when I'm able to relax and just be in the flow and just really connect with a person without needing them to be any different than how they're being in that moment. For example, the cashier, not needing her to be more flexible than she was being in the moment. Um, I'm able to be more present, and thus I'm able to make the most impact that is available to me in that moment. Obviously, we're all at different places. There is no judgment here on any of it. And sometimes you're able to influence people and sometimes you're not. And either way is fine and perfect. In this case, I realized I could be more accepting of where she was in that moment and not make it a big stink, which is what I ended up doing. I just ended up paying the 80 cents and leaving the store. But it made me think about rigidity and inflexibility when it comes to asking for and receiving what we need. Sometimes we can be rigid about how we need to be asked, or how we can be rigid about how the other person needs to be receiving of our ask. And nothing wrong with that. This is not a judgment on that. I would say that the rigidity helps us to see where there's spaces and parts of us that are open to, willing, and thirsty to receive more love and attention and acceptance from us. The more that we can accept all of the parts of ourselves, the more that we have the capacity to be accepting of others. And when we're accepting, we just tend to be less rigid, because rigidity comes with the lack of acceptance of what is currently presenting. Yes? Let me know your thoughts. I would love to read that in the chat and in the comments. And also, I would love to read from you what your, where maybe what your take is on rigidity and maybe how it shows up in your life. Where are the areas? And again, you can be as general or as specific as you like to. There's no obligation here. But where are the areas that you are feeling that rigidity and that tightness? Like I know some of the areas where I feel that rigidity and tightness still. And when I feel it, I know, okay, Deborah, go take a break, take a walk, take some deep breaths. We're going to come back to this. We're not going to try to address it from this place of tightness. We want, because I now know, and it took a lot of reps. Okay, it took a lot of repetition. You know, you think about going to the gym and doing a lot of reps with, dumbbells or push-ups or, pull-ups or whatever it is you're using, whatever equipment you're using. It takes a lot of reps to build the muscle, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It takes months of doing it over and over again to build the muscle. And it's the same thing with anything in life. I'm finding this to be true with eating habits, with cooking, with cleaning, with organizing things, with planning things, with how we show up to things. It takes a lot of reps. It doesn't happen overnight. My ability to speak the way that I do now about the things that I'm concerned about came from many, many, many reps. And I will put in many, many more, and I will continue to grow and develop. Okay? So when it comes to radical self-acceptance, it's not something that happens overnight. It's putting in the reps. And putting in the reps, one of the ways that we put in the reps is to do what we call parts work, which is using internal family systems to really get curious about what we're experiencing, what we're feeling, what is present and alive in this moment, and not needing it to be different than what it is. And that just takes practice. It's not something that comes overnight. We all have places of tension. We all have places of fear. We all have places where we've been traumatized. And those spaces are inviting us, when they show up and show up tight or restricted or constrictive or tense or rigid, that's an invitation that your body is signaling to you that you have the opportunity to give that thought, belief, feeling, fear more attention, more curiosity, more love, more acceptance. I feel like I went a little bit off track for a second. Let me just sit with what I was trying to convey. So yes, I would love to read your thoughts on where you're experiencing tension in your system, where you're experiencing rigidity, or you might have a different word for it. Love to read that too. And to see that that is an invitation. It's not something to judge or suppress or ignore, but rather to give it more of our attention from a place of allowing. This is really miraculous work. Some of it I have to credit Stella Eisenstein for her work. Her website is resonantattention.com. And she gave that equation of attention plus allowing equals miracles. And I loved the simplicity of it. It just makes it so easy to remember. And that's really what you do when you're healing things, when you're coming back to yourself, when you're realigning with who you are and what you're here to accomplish, and the preciousness of your presence on the planet in this moment in time. All right, so I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Comment, communicate if you'd like an invitation to our discussion on Wednesday regarding how we can ask for and get our needs met, receive our needs, what we need. Because that's something that I feel is really important for us right now, and how we're asking for and receiving what we need. If we can notice the rigidity as an invitation for more self-compassion, acceptance, and trust, and not as a thing to kind of ignore or dismiss, because it always shows back up. You can't hide it. You can't pretend. You can try to pretend, but it always shows up. Even if you're faking it on the outside, people can sense that energetically, there's some dissonance there. So how can you, from the inside, in truth and in genuineness, how can you connect with what actually is true for you, how you are feeling, and accept that rigidity without judgment? It's okay if you judge it. It's okay if you don't accept it. That's just more and more layers of love to pour into yourself. Why can't I accept my rigidity? Why can't I be curious about it? Why do I have to block it out? It's okay. It's okay to block it out. It's okay to not accept it. It's okay to judge it. What's going on there? Stay curious, stay open.